Welcome to the LBD Live podcast, Conversations Shaping Responsible Military Innovation.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining the Lawful by Design podcast, Conversations Shaping Responsible Military Innovation. My name's Damien Copeland. I'm the Director of Article 36 Legal, an Australian-based international law practice specialising in the legal review of new weapons. Our aim is to bridge the gap between industry-led technological innovation and national legal review processes. Now, this Lawful by Design podcast is part of our Lawful by Design initiative, which promotes IHL compliance as part of responsible military innovation. The podcast is designed to be interactive, and so those that have joined us as participants are welcome to ask questions at the end. We'll aim for about 40 minutes of panel discussion and then leave 20 minutes for questions. This podcast is being recorded and will be loaded onto Article 36 Legal's YouTube and Spotify channels. So today I'm very excited where we get to meet our Lawful by Design ambassadors and two of our newly minted student ambassador coordinators, Flora and Michael. Let me first introduce you to our Lawful by Design ambassadors. Now, our ambassadors are really at the forefront of the Lawful by Design initiative that aims to bridge the gap between industry and national acquisition processes, importantly by integrating multidisciplinary expertise at the earliest stages of technology design. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our ambassadors, Assistant Professor Jessica Dorsey, Dr. Zena Assad, Dr. Neil Rennick, and Professor Ingvild Boda. Jessica, over to you.
Thanks, Steve. Just to talk a bit about the work that I'm doing and how that may overlap here, my work mainly focuses on the use and integration of AI-enabled decision support systems, especially within military contexts. I also work on autonomous weapon systems, and I follow that space closely because I think the line between AI DSS and autonomous decision-making is far thinner than many might at first assume. And I think that overlap is gaining recognition, and it's an urgent space for interdisciplinary attention. The core analytical work that I try to do is mapping cognitive shifts within some of this stuff, exploring how we can map and overlay different military and AI decision cycles, like the ODA loop, the joint targeting cycle, the 9-step AI life cycle, and then also the military decision-making process. And by doing so, I think we can start to ask where cognition might be shifting, where human roles are being augmented or displaced, or even eroded, especially in high-stake decisions. And I think that these are heuristics and biases that we're seeing, the way that the shifts are happening, automation bias, algorithmic bias, etc., has broader impacts for cognitive erosion and de-skilling in military contexts. And I think that we need to be talking more about how that has knock-on effects to legal interpretation and judgment. So basically, the focus in my role here as an ambassador is also engaging with all of the stakeholders and trying to figure out how some of these issues can be resolved in a way that we're identifying and then addressing, mitigating, and training regarding these kinds of shifts in these various cycles. So thanks.
So Jessica, you're the director of the Realities of Algorithmic Warfare Research Platform at Utrecht University. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. This is an initiative that I launched with a colleague from Conflict Studies, Lauren Gold. She and I sort of identified 2.5 years ago a lot of the promises that were being rolled out by industries, et cetera, about what some of these technologies would be able to do and make processes more efficient. And I think that that's great. I think we're seeing some of that happening. I welcome that very much. Understanding speeding up the ODA loop in certain circumstances might be advantageous, but for all of the promises that we're seeing, we also wanted to make sure that we were centering the realities, how these technologies were actually being used on battlefields. Certainly, we have a lot in the intervening time since we set up the initiative. Battlefields in Ukraine, for example, or in Gaza, understanding how some of these technologies are being integrated and being used, understanding the real impact certainly on the civilians on the ground. And that's where my research kind of focuses. We are an interdisciplinary platform. We come at it from the lawyer in the room, but we also have conflict studies, international relations, and it's quite a wide network. And we are kind of formalizing some of our work and putting together research strands and projects. So yeah, it's very, very much in line, I think, also with the work we're doing at Lawful by Design.
Thanks, Jessica. Let's now move to Dr. Assad. So Zena is a senior lecturer at the School of Engineering at the Australian National University. Zena, over to you.
Thanks, Damien. Hi, everyone. I'm Zena, and as Damien said, I am a senior lecturer in the School of Engineering at ANU. My background is actually in aerospace engineering, and I worked professionally as a system safety engineer for quite some time before turning to academia. And it's really bled kind of into my current research areas. So I specifically look at the safety of critical technologies in safety critical domains. So at the moment, that's AI and autonomy in the military domain. And my role is really looking at this from a socio-technical perspective. So obviously I bring that technical background, but I get to work with wonderful people like Neil, Ingvild, Jess, and Damien, and really looking at that intersection of technical safety and law and technical safety and ethics and responsibility. And so that's predominantly where my research comes into play, is how we can marry both technical and non-technical considerations in these systems, specifically in the military domain.
Thanks, Zena. And I'm sure your safety background provides a lot of relevant experience and input when it comes to responsible development of military technology. So next we have Dr. Neil Rennick. Neil is a lecturer in military ethics at the University of New South Wales and a fellow at the Centre of Military Studies at the University of Copenhagen. Neil, over to you.
Hello, everybody. It's very nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation. So as Damien said, I'm a lecturer in military ethics at the University of New South Wales. Quite recent posting. I've only been back in Australia for about 3 years. Before that, I was in Copenhagen. And before that, I was in Hamburg at the Institute for Peace Research and Security Policy. So my work covers the changing character of war, the ethics of killing, and emerging and evolving military technologies. And I approach that from an ethical perspective. In terms of the work I'm currently doing, most of it, I would say half of it, is on classic ethical questions in war. Why do people commit war crimes? How do we get people to commit less war crimes? And then the other half is dealing with these emerging technologies. A lot of my work has been on armed drones and the US drone program, and now increasingly I look at military AI and autonomous weapons. And in terms of my interest in the LBD initiative, I think part of it is just reminding everybody that there are ethical questions that matter. You know, this isn't just a legal enterprise. Even if you cover your legal bases, there are still some pretty weighty ethical issues that have to be tackled, including thinking about what's foreseeably likely to happen with these weapon systems, not just what's intended. What are the conditions that allow for ethical decision-making, and what are the conditions that make that much harder? I think that matters enormously in the context of autonomous weapons and these future visions of warfare that autonomous weapons are likely to feature in. So that's how I approach some of these questions, but, you know, really excited to work with all of these fantastic people. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Neil. And last but by no means least, Professor Ingvild Boda. She's a professor of international politics at the University of Southern Denmark, and also the director of the Centre for War Studies at the same university. Ingvild, welcome, thank you, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Damien. Yeah, so as you already said, my background is in political science, international relations, really. So I come at this from a kind of a different angle from our previous ambassadors. So, I mean, I study in particular how the integration of AI and autonomy in weapon systems, also in the military domain more broadly, how this changes international norms on the use of force. And by norms, I mean legal norms, of course, but also social norms. And I look in particular at how practices of designing and using these systems change these are productive of norms around the use of force. And the focus of mine has really been to look at the effect that this has had on the human role in use of force decision making. So in particular around how some of the technological logics have really over time diminished the human role. Or the quality of the role that humans really play in use of force decision making when using AI and autonomous technologies. And I think for me that's a big concern, because also kind of building on what Neil has just said, this is not necessarily something that was planned, you know. So it was never the plan that humans should kind of reduce the quality of their decision making, but it's something that comes out of the logics of these technologies, or how some of the logics of the design and the logics of use. So through these kind of mapping these kind of topics, through also in-depth kind of empirical analysis of particular types of systems, such as also, as Jessica mentioned, AI DSS. So I've tried to kind of document this over time, and also kind of use that knowledge to kind of influence governance conversations around responsible AI in the military domain more broadly, and kind of showcase these kind of normative dynamics. And I think that's why I'm also very interested in the Lawful by Design initiative, precisely because of also the focus that it puts on these early life cycle stages. Because one of the core findings, if you look at human agency and the possibility of exercising it or human control, you can't start at the point of the user. You have to start much earlier in order to kind of ensure, right, that users along the life cycle actually have the capacity to exercise their agency rather than being limited by the technologies that they use. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ingvild, and thank you, everybody. So as we can see, we are quite fortunate to have not only experts in their fields, but experts from a range of disciplines, all of which are relevant to the responsible development, design, and use of new technologies within the military. As Ingvild just said, the Lawful by Design initiative really tries to focus on design and development, and that is to encourage those who are responsible for the development of technology, primarily industry, to understand the many challenges that arise from legal, ethical, engineering, and safety and a political science perspective, so that the capabilities are responsible by design rather than as an afterthought. The initiative also seeks to encourage states acquiring such technologies to really invest in this research and development by asking those who are responsible for design and development to demonstrate this at the early stages of acquisition. And that's an important element that we will seek to achieve, such that at the very start of an acquisition process, these issues are at the forefront and not something that are considered late and in a cursory way just prior to putting ink on a contract. So you've met the Lawful by Design ambassadors. Each of them has a superpower, and I think in a Marvel Comics sense, they are the Lawful by Design Avengers. There's no capes at this point, but you never know. So they are advocating for responsible design and development through their research, through their engagements in their professional capacity. What I'd like to now move on to is the future of the Lawful by Design scheme, and that is through our student ambassador program, where we can engender a sense of understanding and priority that the many issues and challenges that are presented by new technology in the military, and to normalise the discussion. So if you talk to industry right now, these types of conversations are are very early in their development. What I'm hoping through the Student Ambassador scheme is that the next generation of lawyers, engineers, computer scientists, developers, acquirers, investors of this sort of technology are actually used to this conversation, so it's normal. And so with that in mind, I'm very pleased to introduce you to our student ambassadors. Before I do so, though, let me just talk a little bit about what sort of an opportunity the Student Ambassador Scheme presents. So firstly, as a student ambassador, you'll have access to our experts. So our academic ambassadors that you've just heard from, and to the extent that is possible, you'll be able to contribute to their research and their own academic work. You'll receive recognition of your participation in this program through, for example, LinkedIn endorsements. You'll have the opportunity to contribute to research and participate in future projects and opportunities for other collaborations. So I'm delighted to introduce you to our inaugural Student Ambassador Coordinators. So our coordinators are going to be responsible for coordinating student ambassadors within specific regions. And so Flora and Michael are the first two of our ambassadors, student coordinators. And so we will be identifying further coordinators once all of the applications have been finalised by the end of this week. So firstly, Flora, she's studying public international law at the master's level at Leiden University, having only recently graduated from the Leiden University College, where she majored in international justice. So Laura, thank you. Welcome to the Student Ambassador Scheme, and thank you for agreeing to coordinate the European-based student ambassadors. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Damien. So as you mentioned, I'm a master's student in public international law at Leiden University. I'm originally from Hungary, but I moved here to the Netherlands 3 years ago to study. And I just finished my bachelor's at Leiden University's Honors College in Liberal Arts and Sciences this past June. And only last week, I officially started my master's program. To be honest, when I first came to university, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to specialize in. But living here in The Hague, the city of peace and justice, quickly convinced me to choose international justice as my major. And over time, I got especially interested in international humanitarian law. So this also inspired my bachelor's thesis, where I looked into how the Israeli Defense Forces use artificial intelligence-enabled decision support systems, or AIDSS in short, and whether their use complies with the principles like distinction, proportionality, and precautions. And this project made me realize how little regulation and understanding there is around these systems, and it got me really passionate about this topic. So when I heard about the LBD initiative, applying for the student ambassador role felt like the perfect fit. And what excites me most about this role is that it allows me to contribute to an important initiative. In my capstone project, I learned a lot about the issues surrounding military AI technologies. And now through LBD, I can actually do something about them by raising awareness among students from different disciplines and initiating an interdisciplinary academic dialogue, as you mentioned, supporting the research of the ambassadors, and helping to promote compliance with legal review obligation through potential events. And another aspect that I really like about this role is that I now get to collaborate directly with some of the ambassadors whose research I used also for my capstone project. So it feels very rewarding to go from reading their work to working alongside them toward the same goal. So yes, it's really great to be surrounded by so many enthusiastic people who work for the same goal. And I'm really looking forward to this journey with LBD this year and can't wait to get to know all the other student ambassadors. Thank you.
Thanks, Flora. That's wonderful. We're very much looking forward to working with you over the next year. And thank you again for agreeing to be a regional coordinator. Next we have Michael Loftus. So Michael's a doctoral student at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies in Washington, D.C. He's previously served in the US Army as an officer and worked on civilian harm mitigation in the former Humanitarian Bureau of the United States Department of State. Michael, welcome, and over to you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Damien. So as Damien mentioned, I'm currently working on my doctoral degree, and in that, my research is focusing on kind of the humanitarian dimensions of potential future conflicts. And a key aspect of that is emerging military technology, and particularly the use of autonomy in military systems. As Damien also mentioned, in kind of former capacities, I have worked adjacent to this, and I served on kind of crisis responses to Ukraine and to Gaza. And so I saw these consequences kind of up close and personal, and that kind of motivated me to learn more at first. And in the course of conversations with colleagues, with professionals working in the field and international colleagues, it became clear that this is a particularly interdisciplinary field, and it isn't always the case that all of the audiences necessarily speak the same language. You have lawyers, and you have diplomats, and you have soldiers, and you have system developers that all use different terminology, and communicating what each of those audiences mean in IHL terms in a way that protects civilians is a challenge that is still kind of being worked through. And so this initiative, and to make sure that these systems are lawful by design, offers a way to work on that into the next generation, where you bring together an interdisciplinary body of students and academics to really kind of make headway on that problem. And so that was what motivated me at first to reach out to Damien and to look into this initiative. And I think it's a particularly good offering for the students. This is a fast moving field, particularly at this moment in time. Industry is evolving rapidly, and this kind of brings together a cutting edge group of as you've heard, some of the leading minds on these issues. And that is a rare opportunity for students that can benefit your individual academic pursuits, your knowledge of where the field is at any given time. It provides the professional opportunities to interact with these academics and to understand the issues, and to gain some endorsements and things that may help you in your kind of professional pursuits later on. So that's all about me. Thank you again, Damien, and back to you.
Thanks, Michael. And like Flora, I think you will bring a lot of relevant background and experience to this role. So we're very delighted to have you both on board. I would note that the prize for most determined also goes to Michael this evening. It's 2:30 in the morning, or nearly 3 o'clock in the morning in the US. So thank you and well done, Michael, for that effort. So before we move on to question and answers, just a couple of quick points. So I have an aspiration to have student ambassadors represented from all regions in the world. So at the moment, we're very well represented in the Northern Hemisphere, less so in the Southern Hemisphere. And so very much looking for more students to apply from the Global South. And whilst the applications are due on the 15th, we will certainly accept applications beyond that. We're also looking for other student coordinators in other regions, so Asia Pacific, South America, Africa, for example. So again, very much looking forward to growing the community of LBD student ambassadors. So thank you to both ambassadors and student ambassadors very much for your introductions today. We're certainly doing well for time, and that means we've got lots of time for questions. And so if you'd like to ask any questions of either the ambassadors or student ambassador coordinators or myself, please put them into the chat and I will just read them out in order. So I did receive a question earlier via email by Johan, who's an aspirant for a student ambassador role, and but was not sure as to what time commitment was required. So I might answer that and then throw to Michael and Flora for their point of view. From my point of view, the student ambassador role can be as much or as little as you're able to do. I have suggested that at a local level, student ambassadors could take an opportunity to promote lawful by design through a number of mechanisms: a presentation, attend a local university event, and raise lawful by design as an initiative. So really, it's up to what you're able and available to do in terms of time. I do appreciate, although my memories are dim as to being a student with many other academic and other life priorities, we're not looking to prevent you from any of those. Michael and Flora, what are your thoughts on terms of time commitments?
So, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head in that it is what you make of it. There's various ways to engage, whether that's, kind of what your personal preference is, whether that's writing, whether that's organizing events on campus or in partnership with other student ambassadors that are in your region, doing so virtually or in person. And naturally that is something that could consume a particularly significant amount of time if you're very enthusiastic. But if you have other academic demands at a particular point in time, it isn't something that is going to detract from your academic studies, in my mind.
Thank you. Anything from you, Flora?
Yes, I don't think I have much to add. I also see it as quite up to you. I will personally try to make as much of it as possible, but of course it depends on my assignments and on my part-time job. But yes, I think that's it. It's really open and depends on how much you want to make out of it.
Thank you. One thing I haven't mentioned yet really is just in terms of the student ambassador year, which is going to run from about September to September. What I anticipate is that for the remainder of the year, so the last quarter of this year, then that will be where the students identify opportunities and connect with their regional coordinators with a view to conducting a regionally focused student ambassador activity in the first quarter of next year. And that regional activity might be simply a meeting like this, where you can discuss plans for local initiatives or potentially regional events if that's possible. And in the last months of the ambassador scheme, what I would aim to do is host a global student ambassador event, again, likely to be virtual in nature, and that would then be an opportunity to connect with student ambassadors from other regions. So I can see Fabian, thank you, has put a question in. just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Jessica Ingveld, Zena, and Neil for their valuable research on the topic. Honoured to be in the call with so many academics that informed the research on your LLM dissertation. And I do note and congratulate Fabian for having recently successfully completed his master's dissertation on AI DSS. So thank you, Fabian, for those kind remarks. All right. Are there any other questions whilst we have everyone together at once?
Can I come in really quick to just kind of give a little
Absolutely.
bit more context? I've been working directly with Flora actually for the past several weeks to set out, maybe give an idea of a concrete example of what a student ambassador might be able to feed into. But Flora has been so kind as to agree to set out a literature review for us. The four of us ambassadors are trying to sort of put together a research agenda in an academic space, and Flora is feeding directly into that with a literature review, so that that can also inform work she's doing in her courses she mentioned, and also it may inform the master's thesis. So in that sense, we hope that it kind of is hitting on all kinds of different levels. It's certainly very helpful to us to kind of orient our thinking as ambassadors for our own academic research, but really, we're all kind of building this from the ground up, and it's just great to have that kind of support. But just wanted to give that as a concrete example.
That's a great example, Jessica. Thank you. So again, the theme is you can do as much or as little as you want, but obviously you have a great opportunity to connect directly with some of the academic leaders in this area. So it's entirely theirs for you to take advantage of. So I don't see any more questions, and so what I might do is conclude. If there are questions that you think of at a later date, I'm certainly very happy to answer those. Hopefully you can see my email address on my screen behind me. But thank you very much to our ambassadors and student ambassador cohorts for taking the time to speak to us all today. Michael, especially at this horribly inconvenient time for you. This Lawful by Design live podcast is scheduled for every second Thursday, roughly at the same time. For my US friends in the future, this video is recorded, and so you can watch it at a more convenient time. It's also available to listen as a podcast on Spotify. Our next podcast is scheduled for Thursday, the 25th of September, in which we will hear again from Jessica Dorsey, together with Heidi Kendall, who is the legal advisor with the ICRC's Arms and Conduct of Hostilities Unit. And their focus will be on AI decision support systems and their use in the military context. So I'm very much looking forward to the next Lawful by Design live podcast. So thanks once again for everybody for joining us. I very much hope this helped those of you that might be considering particularly a student ambassador application to go ahead and do so. And I will let all the student ambassadors know at the start of next week, those that have applied the decision on their application, which will no doubt be positive. And so I look forward to communicating with you all again soon in the future. So thanks again for joining us, and we very much look forward to seeing you at the next Lawful by Design live podcast.